Dragon Ball Z left a big mark on my generation. For people being born in the 90s, Dragon Ball was this weird thing, so alien, so different to what we were used to. Compared to the child-friendly cartoons of the West, and especially docile and innocent cartoons of the Central Eastern Europe, Dragon Ball Z was a huge shock for the kids at that time. It gained a lot of popularity for many reasons, but the dramatic world-ending fight for life and death with horrible and insanely powerful villains, committing vile acts with but a flick of a finger, was something that really moved our minds. Our problems were nothing compared to what the Z fighters were going through. It built this image of things greater than life, something to strive for, something to overcome. And yet, as an adult, when I look back fondly at this anime, and as someone who loves storytelling, I can see the signs of a story writing itself into a corner. Now, with much more experience, I would like to dive deeper in what could have been avoided and how this series could have increased its lifespan to almost infinity by just a couple of simple tweaks. By the end of the original Dragon Ball, Goku is the most powerful being on Earth, and that causes some issues, storytelling issues. If the main character of your story is the most powerful being on the planet, how do you create stakes? How do you challenge your main hero if he can beat anyone? Well, space. You introduce a threat outside of the scope of the current story. You look outside of the planet. Sci-fi universes know exactly how powerful of a tool that is. Space is endless and it presents endless possibilities. And that is how Dragon Ball Z begins, by introducing a threat from the cosmos, alien life. With Raditz being the first alien threat we see. Well, technically not first, but Piccolo was more of a retcon. Anyway, Dragon Ball Z explores space in the beginning of its story. And you can see that that was a great decision, not only giving more freedom for storytelling and endless possibilities, but introducing unknown alien threats, and the fans loved it. The Frieza saga is the most beloved and considered the best part of Dragon Ball Z by most fans. But both the quality of the series and enjoyment of people from that show drops with each next saga, with the Buu saga being considered the worst in Dragon Ball Z. But why is that? Well, there are many reasons that combine, but there is one problem that Dragon Ball Z suffers from the most. The problem that whenever you mention it, people automatically attach it to Dragon Ball Z, as it is so recognizable for this series. Power creep. Power scaling by itself is not a problem, it's just a process that can be used effectively if you know how to use it. But if you don't know how to use it, it can lead to power creep, which can make other characters and powers completely useless in later stages of a story. But Dragon Ball Z just go into insanity at some points, so much so that you stop to even understand how that works and how to judge the power levels of certain characters. So one alien threat destroying a planet and a different alien destroying a planet makes no difference. So let us dissect the story. What specifically caused that issue? For those who don't know, Dragon Ball Z begins with the alien threat in the form of Raditz, and then later on Vegeta and Nappa, who invade planet Earth and are said to be space warriors who are part of a larger cosmic army under the command of Lord Frieza. Goku, the main character, finally meet Frieza after defeating the invaders in a different planet and fight against him. Frieza is this menacing threat, a insanely powerful, tyrannical alien overlord who is the emperor of a vast intergalactic empire, and he himself is the most powerful being in the galaxy. And you can already see what might be the problem here. We very quickly jumped from alien invaders from space to the most powerful being in the cosmos in the span of just 2 short sagas. Obviously, Goku finally, after a long battle, defeats Frieza. So, I have a question now. Who is next? If the most powerful being in the galaxy was defeated so early in the story, and we have 2 sagas left, if you never watched Dragon Ball Z, can you guess what is the next threat? Yeah, exactly, you guessed correctly. 6 human androids that were invented in the future by a scientist and teleported back in time, and are even more powerful than Frieza. Wait, that was not your answer? What did you expect? Anyway, this causes some, some narrative problems. If the androids are more powerful than Frieza, and there is more than one of them, that means they are now the most powerful being in the galaxy, right? If yes, then they can easily conquer the galaxy. Where does technology that made them come from? We know that there is advanced technology in space. Why no one else made anything like that before? If time travel is a thing for them, why won't they time travel even earlier when the main character are much weaker or are not even born yet? Why go back in time with only a handful of those androids, just grind and produce an army of them in secret and then teleport? Or wait a moment, go back in time one day and take the past copies of the androids and then do the same thing over and over again until you have an endless androids. Why all of this? And the thing is, the show have no reason to do that, because all of that could be very easily fixed and propel the story in a different direction earlier on. So here's how I would fix it. The issue that kills a lot of potential from that story is the lack of world building. So the beginning of the story is the same, with Raditz and then Vegeta and Nappa. While traveling to Namek, Goku's ship gets intercepted by some strange alien spaceship. It gets scanned and then flies away, but Goku, being Goku, just forget about this incident like 5 minutes later. After landing on Namek, Gohan and Krillin are introduced to the Frieza's force and everything goes the same like in the story, but we get some additional dialogue from some of the lower ranking Frieza's henchmen that Krillin and Gohan eavesdrop on. You heard that the reinforcements from Pine landed nearby, right? Reinforcements? Weren't they chased away from yet another stronghold? Pfft, reinforcements. It's an excuse so Lord Frieza don't execute them for cowardice. Oh, so Lord Frieza don't know yet? Pfft, I don't think he care. He's desperate for this Dragonball wish-granting fairy tale. He don't have time for the war right now. But there is no reason to die for a fairy tale, don't you think? The ship is nearby. We can talk to them. Shut up! Fairy tale or not, Lord Frieza is still capable to turn the tide. After that exchange, the dialogue is interrupted by Krillin and Gohan being discovered by a third guy patrolling the area. They are chased for a brief moment, but they manage to run away. Now, skipping to Frieza's fight with Goku. During the fight, Frieza becomes more and more desperate, as if his time is ending. But of course he's still dominating, but grows frustrated when the Z fighters refuse to perish or surrender. Of course, let's make it subtle so that his arrogance is still shown, and that frustration becomes more and more visible by the end of the fight. And let's change that he does not destroy the planet Namek, because planet-busting powers at this level are still a bit insane. To still have the pressure of time and desperation, we can establish that he planted some kind of experimental sci-fi bomb or something like that to destroy Namek after getting his wish, so the wish could not be reverted later on as a way of, precaution. After the fight, Goku and all the rest go back to Earth, just like in the story, but after a couple of weeks, they are visited by some strange aliens who thanks Goku for putting down Frieza and giving him a gift. This gift turns out to be an invitation from a powerful warlord who rules a part of the galaxy. Turns out, Frieza was lying about being the most powerful being in the galaxy. Frieza's empire was falling and being invaded by much, much greater forces, and was looking for the Dragon Balls as a form of desperate attempt to stem off this enemy. And the viewer had the foreshadow of this in form of the alien ship scanning Goku's ship, which was actually on the lookout for Frieza, because the same looking ship later on lands on Earth. And we also had the foreshadowing in the form of the dialogue that I presented, which shows that the regular Frieza henchmen are thinking of deserting and that they keep losing against some unknown, at least for the viewer, foe. Because it's just one dialogue in the middle of the saga, it's not a big thing, but people who are attentive could have predicted that. Now, in this way, we not only remove some of the power creep problem, but still making Frieza a formidable foe that Goku barely beats, but at the same time showing that space holds a lot of dangerous and powerful enemies. It introduces some soft politics, showing a map of the galaxy and Frieza's empire being assimilated by other more powerful empires in space, and that this is just a tiny part of this galaxy, and that there's far more factions, space kingdoms, races, and all of that stuff. This ending for the Frieza saga does not remove the possibility for the Android saga to take place, albeit in a different form, but still leaves the door open for basically endless possibilities for stories. The powerful warlord who was hunting Frieza, he might be first shown as a good guy by inviting Goku and thanking him in person, but building up as a potential enemy for Goku and the Sea Fighters to fight at some point in the future. We might have, a scene when Goku, being Goku, the very moment he meets this guy, invites him for a duel and loses dramatically, just like in the Super movies with Beerus, to show how really powerful this guy is, but this time we don't need a power scale intro into a literal god of destruction. You now have space to explore, different planets, different cultures, different races and fighters with powers that Goku and the rest of the Z Fighters needs to overcome. We might explore some more backstory of the Saiyans, of the Namekians. Now with the door open, there is so much more than we can do. Then later on, when we are kinda exhausted with the space thing, we can, for example, introduce the Buu saga, which will open the door for Hell, as this story introduce actual demons, and that be yet another whole world to explore for our heroes. And we can keep the power creep level very low for a long time by just avoiding the power level upscale. So another issue that Dragon Ball Z have is the fact that how good a fighter is determined by his power level. If you have a big power level, then you are stronger. This presents, of course, a huge spike of power leveling. Instead, we can do fights with more power level side scaling. To give you an example, One Piece is one of the shonen shows that was very much inspired by the Dragon Ball formula, but it often presents power level side scaling instead of upscaling. Of course, mild spoilers for One Piece. The main character, Luffy, has the power of rubber, which means his body has the properties of rubber. At one point in the story, he meets an incredibly powerful guy who is considered as powerful as the main big baddies of the show, Eneru. Eneru is a very skilled fighter with the incredibly strong power of lightning. He can cast devastating lightning balls and thunder strike. He can also be as fast as lightning. But our main character managed to defeat him, and without any Super Saiyan style power-ups, because rubber does not conduct lightning. So all the might, all the power of Eneru is just nullified. Nothing really works on Luffy, and that's how he can defeat this insanely powerful villain, by just having a power that is a direct counter to the power of a villain. Back in Dragon Ball Z, it was also a bit contrived that Frieza had his really creative alien forms, but every single next form is just more powerful than the previous one. So there is just absolutely no reason for him to be constantly in his most powerful form all the time. As far as we know, it does not cost him anything to be in those forms, so might as well be in the most powerful one all the time, right? What I would do for this fight to be more interesting is to make all the forms have pros and cons. So the first form being the weakest in terms of fighting capabilities, but he would be the most intelligent, the most cunning and smart. That would make sense why he is constantly in his first form, as most of the time he is not fighting, but governing an empire and an army. So his muscles would not be as useful as his cunning and strategizing. The second form would be the most imposing one. His strength would be massive in this form, as well as his key powers. But in the same time, his massive size would make him a bigger target, and he would also be quite slow. The third one, the alien form. In this one, Frieza would be an absolute beast. He would be the most aggressive, the fastest, and the most brutal. He would be completely animalistic in terms of fighting only with his primal instincts, like a berserk mode. His cons, however, would be the fact that, just like an animal that uses only instinct, he would not be that smart, and so it would be easy to lure him into a trap or just outsmart him during a fight. I would also add some, big talons and more scary primal looking face to really sell the idea of this wild beast form. Also, let me just say, this form is the coolest and the most badass. I always found it sad that it was only for like a short period of time in the show, and as far as I know, there are no games that feature this third form. If there is a game that you can play as a third form Frieza, please tell me. And the fourth form would be the balance of the three, being neither amazing nor bad at anything that the other forms had, but in the same time having no cons to exploit. Forms like that would actually make the Z fighters think about strategies and how to defeat him instead of just, boosting power level because their level was too low, like in a MMO game. That was, of course, just a short and simple fix that can open doors to many directions on how the story would and can progress. And that is the issue that a lot of writers just do. They just write themselves into a corner and they don't know how to get out of it, because whenever they write a story, they don't think about the consequences. We have a cool concept. We have this enemy. He's the big, the greatest enemy in the galaxy. That's how we will raise the stake so high that people will be so invested. But what's next? Nothing really matters. What would actually be more interesting is when you actually tell that, yeah, this incredibly powerful guy that your heroes like spend 100 episodes to even try to beat, yeah, this guy was just a bitch. This guy was just like nothing in this grand scale of things. That would, like, imagine the look on the face of the people who are viewing, experiencing your show. Or experiencing a story. So yeah, that is the world building fixes series, quote unquote. I don't know if that will be a series. We will see later on how this video will be received. But yeah, that's all for today. I hope that you enjoyed that one, and if you ever want me to explore that subject more in, for example, a different medium, or even in Dragon Ball, if you want me to just go, yeah, like you told us just like this small bit, maybe just go more to show that you are actually good at storytelling. If you think that, let me know, and I will continue, and I will explore more plots that things that I would fix in certain stories with world building. You can fix stuff with different stuff, but world building usually fix a lot of issues, especially people who write themselves into a corner. That's all for today, and I hope that you found value in this video. And yeah, you need to just remember that you're just one page and one chapter away from greatness. Have a great day, and see you tomorrow.